So, after all the wait, we finally got James Gunn's take on Superman and the DC universe adapted into screen. My first time watching the movie was actually on the 10th, but I did want to do a second watch just so I can see truly how I felt about the movie. I realized that I cannot actually give this a base movie review just because this is truly a movie made for comic book fans. Not to say that if you never read a comic book, you wouldn't really enjoy this movie, but it does seem like a movie that a comic book fan would enjoy more. Right after I finished this movie, I went to pick up my comic books at my local comic book shop, and when I talk with people in the store, it truly feels like every single comic book nerd liked this movie. So I made a decision that this is not really gonna be a movie review. I'm really just gonna say my thoughts on the current DCU and this Superman adaptation that we finally got. Before getting to any of this, I gotta say that this video does contain spoilers. So if you haven't seen the movie at all and you are interested in watching it, go watch the movie ASAP and then come back and watch this video, please. I greatly appreciate that. I'd like for this channel to grow and this video to pick up a lot of views just so I can have a little incentive so I can make more videos like this. Anyways, getting into it. James Gunn's Superman truly only had two goals, in my opinion, and that is to establish the DCU and give it a good starting point, but also give Superman the movie that he's been deserving for a long time. And I believe that this movie accomplished both of these goals amazingly. One thing that I've heard the most, and many others have heard that in any discussion on Superman, is how Superman is very overpowered and boring. And honestly, I used to be one of those people that believe Superman was very boring. However, in the second half of 2024, I started reading more comics. I've always wanted to be a big comic book reader. However, I never had the patience or the money to collect comic books and start reading them. It also does take a little bit of time of research in order to know what you should be reading. You shouldn't just grab a comic book from a comic book shop and expect to understand everything. And one of the big reasons why I started reading DC since the start of this year was because of the excitement that I had for this movie coming up. In fact, I'm truly excited about the DCU. I think James Gunn is going to do a great job with it. However, not everyone is a big comic book fan, and you do need a good movie in order to represent that character. And ever since Christopher Reeve's quadrology ended, we haven't really gotten a good Superman representation on live action. Superman Return was kind of a bust of a movie, and then we got the Zack Snyder interpretation. And I know a lot of people like Zack Snyder's movies. You have the Snyder Code out there. But I do have to be honest. Although not a bad movie, Man of Steel is a shit Superman movie. Throughout the entirety of the DCU, Superman was just an emotionless husk of a character. He really didn't have the confidence or charisma that Superman always has in the comics. And besides that, it was clear that Zack Snyder was only interested in the character of Superman as a Jesus allegory. But this movie gets Superman right. In two one-on-one scenes between Clark and Lois, you can truly see the character's motivations and why he does what he does. First off, that interview scene, everyone has said about how that scene is truly great. We saw the scene a lot in the trailers, but in the movie, you truly get a grasp on what's the purpose of that scene. It fully lays out how Superman thinks, but it also takes a little bit of a jab on how people don't understand the character. Because everyone always try to find motivations and the reasons why Superman would do what he does, but the truth is that Superman only helps people because it's the right thing to do. And the other scene that I truly love is between Clark and Lois while the Justice Gang is fighting the space simp behind them. It's funny how in the promotional images and in the trailers you make you think that that space simp is going to be like huge final battle, but it's not really. It's just a throwaway gag that they have. But I'm getting off track. Anyways, in that scene, Clark and Lois are discussing on why they wouldn't work together and theoretically makes sense why they wouldn't. Clark is like way too good, almost to a fault. He trusts everyone. He believes every single human being is beautiful, while Lois has to question everything. She has a mindset of a journalist. In that scene, you get probably the best quote in this movie when Lois is talking about I'm punk rock and whatever, and then Clark is like, no, I like punk rock too. And then Lois goes on to say on how Clark thinks every single human being is beautiful. Well, Clark replies with the simple, maybe that's the real punk rock. And that scene truly lays out the beauty on why Superman works as a character. Superman is what we all should strive to be. He's just good. He helps everyone because he has the power to. And any one of us who would have the power to help anyone or just be kind to one another, we should do it. Not because we will get a reward out of it or we will be granted with eternal life in heaven, but just because it's the right thing to do. And that's exactly the kind of character Clark Kent and Superman are. So the characterization of Superman in this movie is truly perfect. They get every single aspect of the character right. The only critique that I'm going to say is that I wish I saw Clark Kent a little bit more. And I do believe that the day-to-day Clark Kent aspect of the life is very interesting. I love the planet supporting characters. I love Perry, Cat, Jimmy, Stephen Lombard, and Lois, all of them interacting are very good in the comics. And I do hope we get to see more of that in the future. One thing that people have been criticizing a lot with this movie is the fact that the pacing is a little bit off. The movie just throws you headfirst into this entirely fleshed out universe of superheroes and fantastic tales about space and different dimensions and all that shit. And I understand why people would think that that's jarring, but I believe that this works for what James Gunn is trying to establish with his universe. Many times in the Marvel universe, it truly feels like it's just a parallel to our universe, but with superheroes in them. But this movie makes it clear it's not going to be like that in the DCU. This is just a comic book universe adapted into the big screen. And the fact that this movie has so much going on at the same time does give a little bit of a vibe that you're watching just a bunch of mini Superman adventures. But I truly love that most Superman comics are like that. Comic book runs in general, for most characters, they're not only dealing with one or two problems, they're dealing with a whole charade of problems that are all culminated into one huge chaotic event, which is exactly what this movie does. And when you watch this movie, you can truly see that this is just James Gunn's take on All Star Superman. It's not like a true adaptation, but All Star Superman is pretty much like this. All Star Superman also feels like a bunch of miscellaneous adventures of Superman that all lead to one big climax. I never felt that any of the plots in this movie truly felt underdeveloped. I can see why people would think that, but I thought it was fine. But it does truly feel like we're seeing just a little bit of what this universe can provide us. I have a lot of faith on James Gunn when it comes to world building for the DCU, and this whole vibe that the DCU is going for does differentiate it from the MCU or even the DCEU. First of all, the MCU, if you followed it ever since phase one, it truly feels like that's the catalyst for everything else. While this one, again, just feels like you're jumping straight through a universe that's already happening. While the DCU tried to do this after Batman v Superman is just a clusterfuck of a lot of shit happening without any explanation. And while this one doesn't go all the way down for like how the Justice Gang are formatted and all these superheroes, how they came to be, you can kind of get a grasp that this is going to be developed after. While the DCU, it clearly feels that they try to do Superman as the starting point and then build it like Marvel, but the executives just wanted to jump into the action as quick as possible, so they had to rush in Batman v Superman and then the Death of Superman and then the Justice League, and none of the characters got their own movies until after. We got Wonder Woman before Justice League, but that was it. We didn't get a Batman movie, we didn't get a Cyborg movie, we only got a Aquaman movie 1 year after the Justice League, and then the Flash movie only came out in 2020. It's just truly a mess, and I truly think that the DCU is not going to do this. Now, changing topics, James Gunn has said that the next movie that he's going to work in is kind of a sequel to Superman, but not really a sequel to Superman. And I believe he means two ways. It's either going to be a world's finest movie with maybe Metallo being the villain and have Batman and Superman working together, or the most likely, we're going to see a movie about the Terrifics. This one is the Justice Gang. I believe they're going to change to the Terrifics, or they can just change the name of the Justice Gang to the Justice League International, which this movie clearly takes a lot of inspiration from that. There's been speculation about a Mr. Terrific show, and I'd like to see that. He seems like a very cool character. Talking about the other characters as well, Guy Gardner was so funny in this movie. Metamorpho, you kind of feel for him. He does feel like a very sweet guy that's just been put in the wrong position. The only one that I'm gonna say is that I wish we saw more of Hawkgirl. I have a lot of nostalgia when it comes to the character of Hawkgirl because of the Justice League cartoon that I used to watch as a kid a ton. And although it's not the same Hawkgirl, it's not gonna be the same story, I feel like they're still gonna connect her and she's gonna play a bigger role in this universe. Unlike Mr. Terrific and Guy Gardner, whose actors I think they're like around 50, she's like 20, and I think that's on purpose. They're gonna use her a ton. I'm 100% sure that she's gonna play a big role into becoming a Justice League member. My prediction for the Justice League is that it's just gonna be the Justice League cartoon lineup: Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman, John Stewart, Green Lantern, Hawkgirl, Martian Manhunter, and Flash. Now, I'm not sure they're going to use Barry Allen. I like to see Barry Allen, but maybe they use Wally West. Talking about some of the performances here, the true standout is Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor. He's imposing and he's just an asshole. Throughout the entire movie, you just constantly want to see him lose. Just so hateable, but it's so good. Only a good actor can make a character that hateable, but still you get in the back of your head, it's like, this dude is cool. Rachel Brosnahan is by far the best Lois Lane we ever got. And David Corenswet as Superman. Holy shit. When the casting for this movie was announced, I looked at David Corenswet. I was like, I think this guy is going to be perfect as Superman. And when I saw him in a suit and then I saw him in other stuff, I was like, yeah, I think this guy's pretty locked in. As long as they give him a good script, he's going to be perfect. And in this movie, he is perfect. He does have the lovable charisma that both Superman and Clark has. But going back to the interview scene, you can truly see him flipping between Clark and Superman constantly. With Superman being that broad shoulder, confident, and chill guy, Clark being more this bumbling loser that does have a lot of insecurities to him. But what I really loved that sometimes he would merge those two characters. Because truly Superman is not just the Clark Kent persona or the Superman persona, he's a merge between both of them. He does have the Clark Kent characteristics of being a little dorky and a little bit of a loser, but still having a kind heart inside him. And for most part, he does have the Superman confidence and the will to do good, like Superman has. So it is nice to see that they incorporated both characters into one. I believe, in my humble opinion, that David Corn Sweat is the best Superman actor we ever got. I think he looks a lot like Superman, and I think that he plays the character perfectly. And the script helps a lot. And the last thing that I want to talk about this movie is the setup that they have for Supergirl movie coming out next year. I love Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. That's one of my favorite comic book runs I've ever read, although it took me a while to get through it because it's pretty wordy. However, I love the comic book run and I like the fact that they are adapting that into the big screen. Millie Alcock is also perfect to play Supergirl. First reason why is because I truly love Millie Alcock. I wish that she was my wife. She's beautiful. And then the second reason for it is that the little bit that you get from her, you already understand everything about that character. Kara is very irresponsible and trouble, and you do understand why she would be that way considering her background. And truly, she's not like that. She's a completely different character that just so happens to share a name with him. You know, her being a teenager during the downfall of Krypton and her seeing everything she ever loved being destroyed, and then being trapped in a time vortex while Clark got to live the best life ever with his Earth parents. You can truly see why both of them are different. But we are going to get to see in the movie that Kara, even though she is very different from Clark, in many ways she's very similar just in the sense of how good of a person she is. And I'm really excited for that movie. I'm really excited for the entirety of the DCU. This is a great start to the DCU, and I fully believe that James Gunn is going to give us a great cinematographic universe. I can't wait to see more of this universe. So anyways, that's all I got for the video right now. So leave a like, subscribe, leave a comment. I'd like to see what you have to say about the movie. My Instagram is always linked down in the description. And that's it. See you next time for when I'm going to cover Fantastic Four First Steps. I'm really excited about that one. But that's all I have to say. So bye, guys.